in All Cloud. The goonism that we saw pretty much were masked men with high-end vehicles, brandishing weapons. We also saw the attack on campaign caravans for Rigathi Gachagua. And one asked the question, has poverty been weaponized to the advantage of those who can pay some token here and there?
I think you're spot on. And maybe we need to ask ourselves, who is the goon? Mm-hmm. So the person who has weaponized poverty is essentially the goon, the person who is taking advantage of the vulnerable, men and women. We keep saying youths, they are not. If you analyze the profile of the people who met violence on people in this public rally, they're actually guys well into their 40s and 50s. Guys who've lived and probably realized that things are not going to be better. They've got pretty much less to lose. And politicians, who are the real goons, if you ask me, are taking advantage of these individuals. Instead of coming up with programs, legislation, and oversight the government to ensure that the government is providing an environment that can help these men and women in this country make a livelihood, they've created a system. They've created a system that benefits the political class by perpetuating a dependency culture. So they benefit from this system, and on one front, on the first front, they benefit from this system by ensuring that these people remain dependent. But on the second front, they benefit from this system as a political class, simply because it protects their political clout. So what happens is, instead of debate, they inculcate a culture of fear. So if you're coming with an alternative perspective, probably an alternative perspective that will address the plight of these men and women who are taken advantage of, they create an environment where no one will listen to you and you'll be afraid of articulating your issues. And then number two, instead of persuasion, they've entrenched a culture of intimidation. You're intimidated. In 1992, after the 1992 general election, there were a number of by-elections, if you remember. Some of us were pretty young. But I remember in Migori constituency, in Nyatike constituency, in Ndiwa constituency, and there's a constituency in the coastal region. There were by-elections in areas where Ford Kenya had won. And I think it was influenced by the fact that Moi was afraid of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga having more MPs in parliament and being the official leader of opposition. Remember, Jaramogi was not even number 2. Jaramogi was number 4. But he had more MPs. And I think the intention was to cripple him, have less Ford Kenya MP and have Ford Kenya just as a parliamentary political party, but not the official opposition party. And I remember walking to Migori Stadium and listening to a number of candidates who came forward for the by-election, because the Ford Kenya candidate who had won was now contesting on a KANU ticket. So Ford Kenya had to get candidates. And there were a couple of candidates. I remember one called Charles Ogut, who was by then a university student. We went and listened. But you see, the political class today understands that if Hesbon Owila pops up and he has ideas and people listen to him, the likelihood of fresh ideas challenging the status quo is extremely high and addressing the plight of these men and women. So they've created a culture that sustains, their privileged position as a political class at the expense of the vulnerable masses. So for me, if you ask me today, they are no goons. They are no goons. They are Kenyans who are looking for leadership. They are Kenyans who are looking for opportunities. They are Kenyans who wake up and they want to fend for their families. But then they are political leaders who've become goons, who've created a system, they're sustaining it because it benefits them. They go out and take advantage of those Kenyans. And it is very unfortunate that the government of the day has failed to crack on this, because the buck, stops with the president and the people the president has put in place to just stop this once and for all. Today, they'll block the member of parliament who is trying to challenge my MP, for instance, in Embakasi South. They'll block him with motorbikes. Tomorrow after the election, this politician probably go for recess after winning or wherever, dealing with his stress. They'll block me or they'll block you. And no one will do nothing because they won't have the politicians to pay them, but they'll still look for a way of, meeting their daily expenses. They'll end up creating a very chaotic system that thrives on impunity as they're looking for money.